welcome to Uncle's channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy, Game Boy Color game. Today, focus on a game called Wacky Races for the Game Boy Color. Now, this is based on the 1960s cartoon show, and I can't say I've ever actually seen that show. I've seen a lot of the other Hanna-Barbera shows of the era, and I'm not like a huge fan of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I mean, they're okay. The Flintstones was probably the best of them, but I've never actually seen Wacky Races, so perhaps I'm missing out, and this is the best one of them all. I know it started out as like a cartoon that kids would, place bets on, or I guess not like actually gambling, that's probably illegal, but would predict the winner of races, and they decided to transfer it over to just simply being a cartoon where these characters would race throughout with no kids placing bets and whatnot. Like I said, that's probably a little more extreme than what the actual startup for Wacky Races was, but regardless, it's sort of like a Looney Tunes type cartoon from what I can gather, and the game is going to keep up with those antics pretty well as far as like laying out bombs to blow your opponents up, or freezing them out with little frozen bullets here, or lightning bolts coming down from the sky. I mean, they're really harkening back to sort of that cartoon era, but at the same time, they are also transferring it over to very much of a Mario Kart style racer here. And so basically combine 60s animation with Mario Kart, and you're going to get Wacky Races here for the Game Boy Color. Now, this particular game did get moved up in the queue a bit because Cosmo, if I'm saying it correctly, or maybe it's Cosmo E, a request I cover sooner than later, so naturally moved up in the queue. If there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below, and just like Wacky Races, I'll move it right on up. Now, I can start the videos off looking at the box art for the game first, and the box art for Wacky Races is pretty much directly out of the cartoon here. You have all your core racers zooming around the mountain. You have Dastardly Dudley, I think is his name, and Muttley in the front here of their Mean Machine Mobile, and he's putting out like little nails on the track to try to, distract or hurt the other racers, which is odd because you can't actually lay nails out in the game as far as like any of the items that you pick up. So the cover is not exactly accurate, but I feel like the spirit of the game, is covered pretty well here. So overall, a pretty decent cover for the game. Now, when you start the game up here, you do have the Mean Machine flying in some of the early credits, as well as your language selection, and then you get to the main menu here, and there are 4 different game modes that you can choose from. You go through Arcade, Endurance, Championship, or Time Trial. Now, if you go through Arcade mode, you go through 3 separate cups here. If you win first, second, or third in all the cups, then you're going to get to see the credits roll that way. If you go through Endurance mode, you essentially go through a course, and you simply keep going around it, and every time you go through a lab, whoever's in last place drops off, and if you win first place at the close, you win that particular game mode. Championship allows you to go through every single course in the game, just simply back to back to back. And after every course, you accumulate points like in a traditional Mario Kart race. And if you win the most amount of points at the close of all the tracks, you defeat Championship mode, and you can get the credits to roll that way. And then there is Time Trial, which obviously allows you to just simply get a high score inside of the track itself. Now, you can go through multiple game modes here if you want to see the credits roll multiple times and get different endings for every single character that you defeat it with. However, our goal is to simply get the credits to roll a single time in order to consider finishing the game here for this particular series. So we're going to go through the Arcade mode, and when you load Arcade up here, you do get to choose from 6 different racers. Now, some of them are blacked out because you have to unlock them by doing certain accomplishments inside the game. And so from the ones I'm given the option of, I look at them, and they all have like their individual statistics that are listed at the bottom, but they're not like laid out in the chart for you to easily see. It just simply has a scrolling across at the bottom, sort of give you an idea of what that character is like. I looked through them. None of them like really stood out. I never watched the show, so I can't like have a personal connection to any of them. I did like the lumberjack looking fella here, but it looked like he was going to be really freaking slow because he is so enormous inside of his little log cart here. And so I did end up choosing the Slag Brothers, just simply because they looked like cavemen here. And I was really glad that I did, because I was going through the track. It actually looked like a little bit like Shrek from the background. And truth be told, a lot of this game like reminded me of Shrek as far as like the colors and the graphics. But obviously it's not Shrek. But I did choose the Slag Brothers. And then we move over to the 3 cups that you can choose from. Now, initially, you can only choose between the Fun and the Super. And once you defeat both of those, then you unlock the Crazy Cup. And you have to defeat all of them in order to get the credits to roll. And all the individual tracks inside of these cups are going to be based on different places around the United States of America. And we'll sort of see how well they match up with those particular areas as we journey through it. Now, I do choose the Fun Cup first. And so we're going to be going through the states of Arkansas, Missouri, and Mississippi here. Now, Arkansas is up first, and you can see here, like from the initial screenshot or initial footage here, this is a very colorful and very good-looking Game Boy Color game. I've done a lot of racing games between the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, and this is definitely one of the better-looking ones as far as like actually including the background, including the course itself, having differences in the texture on the road that you're on. As we go further into the game, we're actually going to get oncoming traffic coming at us. We're going to get like little tumbleweeds coming across. We're also going to get like different water and lava coming across the tracks. This is a good-looking Game Boy Color racing game. and is going to rival even some things I've seen on the Game Boy Advance, especially when we get to like the later levels that have like different hill action and things like that. But as far as Arkansas goes, it's a pretty straightforward course. It's sort of getting the basics of the game down. Control-wise, it handles very well. Press the A button to accelerate, and you can pick up different items throughout the races here, little W's on the track, sort of like your item blocks. You hit one of those, and you're going to get a variety of different items. Press the B button, and you shoot that individual item out. You can get things like the ghost to make yourself disappear, so you can't be hit by any items. You get like ice bullets, fire bullets, lightning bolts that can come down, a wacky star, essentially, where you're invincible for a while, different turbos. There's tons of different items inside this game, way more than I had anticipated. However, the items that the enemies get, you don't actually ever get. Like, they can only put out like oil spills, like little bombs on the track, which are going to be very difficult to avoid sometimes, but you never actually get those items. So what you get is different from the AI inside the game. And while we're talking about the AI here, the AI for the arcade mode is very, I guess random is the best way to call it, because you could be like first place, and then they simply zoom up out of nowhere, you blow them up, and then half a second later, they're right back up there with you, almost as if nothing happened. But if you get blown up, it takes like a solid 2 or 3 seconds for you to regain your composure, and then you're knocked back like 4 places inside the race. And so the AI is fairly random, seems to work to their advantage a little bit, but at the same time, like if you're pretty far behind, you catch up really darn fast. So I guess like the arcade mode is very much like an arcade you would play, you know, well, at the arcade. And what I mean by that is they're going to give you plenty of opportunities to catch up and fall behind, sort of keep you involved in the action. Now, in order to advance from Arkansas, you have to win first, second, or third place. And if once you do that, you get like a little ceremony scene here of you on your little pedestals, and then you move on to the next race. Now, the second race here is going to be Missouri. And Missouri, the best I can say about this, like a swampy land. And this is the one that probably reminded me most of Shrek, especially with my character here. His little green arm sticking off to the side looks very much like Shrek's ears sticking out. It just reminded me a heck of a lot of it between the background and the foreground. It just all sort of came together. Soundtrack wise, this is the best song in the entire game. I love a little bit of a play right here. Overall, there's a lot of pretty good songs in the game, but this is definitely the best one. Now, inside this track, you're going to notice one core difference between this one and the first one, and this is going to be introduction of hills throughout the track. And the graphics here, or the physics as you're going up a hill, looks absolutely fantastic on the Game Boy Color. Like I said, I've played many racing games on the Game Boy Color, and they're pretty much all just simply on a straight, flat surface. This is one of the few ones that actually has like going up a hill and pretty good dynamics as you're going up the hill, around the curves, and actually even the background in track as you're going around the curves. I mean, it is a good looking game. Now, Mississippi is the third track in the Fun Cup, and as you're going through here, you have a little village or a little town in the background, and you are constantly going over ramps or hopping over these little rivers here. And so obviously representing the Mississippi River or some of the tributaries that are contributing to the Mississippi River. So for Missouri and Mississippi, I feel like they did a pretty good job, you know, keeping up with the overall aesthetics. Arkansas, I can't really say like I know a whole lot about Arkansas. I've been there like maybe 2-3 times my entire life. And so I guess it's colorful with great rolling hills, even though it's in the Great Plains of the United States. I don't know. If you live in Arkansas, let me know down below if the Arkansas track lined up. But I feel like Missouri, Mississippi did line up a good bit better. Now, after you finish up the Fun Cup, you can move on into the Super Cup. And Nevada is going to be our first one here. You're going to go through the deserts of Nevada, little tumbleweeds coming across the tracks, canyons in the background. And then the second track is going to be Alaska, very much of a winter wonderland aesthetic here. The snowy hills in the background, the ice track that you're racing on. No ice mechanics, so you're not going to be slipping and sliding as you go. The guardrails are going to have like frozen statue, you know, snow on the trees here. Just an overall good winter track. No good winter music to go along with it. Anytime we have a winter track inside of a racing game, I always look forward to like the winter soundtrack. It was okay to say the most on it. Like I said earlier, the Missouri track is definitely the best inside the game, and most of these other ones are fairly average. Then next up we have the New York track, and it's going to be our only nighttime track in the entire game. Very much of a nighttime skyline, the city in the background here. As you're going through it though, you do get a new weapon inside the game, and it is so random here. It's going to be more like a almost like a more distant tracking ice shot or more distant tracking fire shot. And I can't figure out because they only put it on the New York track, and I think they put it on like 2 other ones inside the game, and it never appears outside of these 2 or 3 tracks. And it's just so odd to put a more powerful version of these 2 particular weapons only on these few tracks inside the game. I don't understand it. Maybe it's something to do with the programming, maybe something to do with the lore of Wacky Races. I don't know. It is sort of odd here. And then once you finish up New York and you've got first, second, or third, then you unlock the Crazy Cup inside the game. Now, the Crazy Cup is going to have organs to start us off here. And it looks like you're racing through your grandmother's yarn collection. I have no idea how this symbolizes Oregon at all. I've been out to Oregon multiple times in my life. Never have I seen multicolor rolling hills in the background, but you are going to get traffic on this course, and so there's going to be basically tractor trailer trucks coming at you. You hit one of those, you're going to blow up, and have to have a pause for 3 or 4 seconds before you can resume your race. Sort of like a Toad's Turnpike in Mario Kart 64. Then you're going to have Michigan here, very much of a foggy hill area. It's probably my least favorite course inside the game. I never like any course that has like fog on it or just simply hinders your field of view or any at all. Not my kind of course, but it finishes up with Hawaii after that, and is one of the best courses in the entire game. It went out with a bang here. You have all these little lava rivers going throughout the course, sort of like the Mississippi track, but you get on the ramps, hop over it, and if you miss the ramp, you actually fall into the lava river, you blow up, and of course you have to pause to 3 or 4 seconds before you continue on. The background is going to have the volcanoes, the overall Hawaii aesthetic here, or the stereotypical Hawaii aesthetic, and just a overall really fun course as you're going through it. And then you finish up the Crazy Cup here, and you unlock a brand new vehicle that you can race as, which is the Mean Machine, which is sort of like the main mascot or the overall, character for Wacky Races. Now, you do get a little ending scene after you finish up the Crazy Cup. Has your Slag brothers sort of hitting each other back and forth, saying like, hitting each other makes them stronger or faster, something like that. And then the credits do begin to roll. Now, you can go through the game multiple times, and every time you finish the game, you are going to get a different ending depending on which character that you finish it with. And if you go through some of the championship modes, you get a little bit different ending on that as well. But like I said earlier, you can get credits to roll, I guess, between all the different characters in the game, probably 12, 13 different times, if you really want to do a completionist run of this game. But let's talk about the game as an overall here, because I do feel like it's one of the more charming or aesthetically pleasing racing games on the Game Boy Color. Even if you're not like a fan of the original cartoon, I still feel like it has a lot to offer, can sort of pull you in a bit. Because like I said, it reminded me a good bit of Shrek for whatever reason. And I'm a huge fan of Shrek, so the art direction did pull me in. But also, like the individual tracks, they're all pretty much completely different. They're all going to have their own little individual antics about them, as far as like, rivers or lava rivers or different jumps or traffic coming at you or tumbleweeds, different backgrounds. It's definitely varied the tracks a whole lot more than most racing games on the system. And even like the hill mechanics. I know I came back to that a couple times in the video here, but they really are a step above all the other racing games on the Game Boy Color. It's something very, very basic for racing games now, but it's much more of a Game Boy Advance mechanic that they've employed on the Game Boy Color. And it was just simply cool to see it as an earlier version for the system. But the game has a lot of different items that you can use, a lot of different racers that you can go through the game as, tons of different endings that you can unlock, just simply a lot of different game modes. There's a lot of replayability inside the game. The only drawback I might say inside the game here is simply the AI is a little bit on the random side, but that is going to vary a little bit depending on like which game mode you have, as well as the difficulty setting that you put inside the options. So that can be mitigated a little bit depending on player choice here. So overall, I'd probably give the game a 7 out of 10. It's about a 40-minute experience to go through. If you just really want to get the credits to roll one time, maybe get all of the credits to roll. You're looking at several hours inside the game. Just depends on how much you enjoy Mario Kart or Wacky Races as an overall. But like I said, 7 out of 10, fun racing game, one of the better looking ones on the system. What do you all think? Did you enjoy Wacky Races? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.